After years of producing small-scale paintings for private patrons, Caravaggio finally had his big break in 1599, when in fact he was hired by the heirs of Matteo Contarelli to execute a series of paintings for their family chapel here in the church of San Luigi dei Francesi, which is the official French church here in the city of Rome. Now consider that it was originally Caravaggio's boss, Giuseppe Cesari, who had been commissioned to execute the paintings, but he got too busy working for the Pope. And so the young Caravaggio, who was well known in private circles here in Rome, finally got a chance to show off his stuff in the public sphere. The three paintings that Caravaggio produced are episodes from the life of St. Matthew, the apostle and the evangelist. And in fact, the earliest of the three is the last event in the life of the saint, which is his martyrdom. And what we see is St. Matthew lying on the ground with his assassin standing over him with a sword. And at first glance, it looks like St. Matthew is trying to ward off the stab of the assassin, but in reality, he's reaching out for the palm that is being extended towards him by the angel. And so Matthew accepting willingly his martyrdom. But perhaps most eerily in this painting is that figure that you see looming in the background, leaning into the scene, which in fact is Caravaggio himself in the role of the king who sent the assassin to kill the evangelist. The second painting that Caravaggio produced is one of his most famous, The Calling of St. Matthew. Now, in terms of literature, there really wasn't much for Caravaggio to go on, because the gospel account simply says that Christ said, "Follow me," and Matthew did. But Caravaggio was able to transform those few words into this theatrical scene where we see Christ over on the far right-hand side, walking into the frame, extending his right hand a la Michelangelo in the creation of Adam up there on the Sistine Chapel ceiling, pointing over in the direction of Matthew, who sits at the center of the table, who wears a black cap with the gold coin. Remember, Matthew was a tax collector, and who appears to be passing the buck. You'll notice that with his left hand, he actually points over to the gentleman next to him, essentially saying, "Who you want him?" because it seems that Matthew was afraid, of course, of this particular vocation. And that light that comes into the painting from the far right-hand side, which corresponds to the actual natural light that enters the chapel, but not, of course, with the window that Caravaggio has painted into the scene. And so this kind of idiosyncratic arrangement of light typical of Caravaggio's works. And the last of the paintings that Caravaggio produced is the high altarpiece, where we see the angel ticking off the generations as in fact the Gospel of Matthew begins, and Matthew looking up rather sophomorically at the indications of the angel. Now consider that this was actually the second version of the subject that Caravaggio painted, because the first was considered indecorous, inappropriate, because it showed St. Matthew in a very unflattering light. Now that first version was in fact located in Berlin, Germany, but was destroyed during the bombing of the city at the end of World War II. Fortunately, of course, that second altarpiece that we see today is standing in situ in this extraordinary chapel here in the heart of Rome, inside of the church of San Luigi dei Francesi, in the very heart of Caravaggio country.